Hey everybody, and welcome to a brand new Internet Friends episode. The episode where I guess we're trying to escape a sitcom. We're working on the laugh track, right?
Oh, I do a plenty for the laugh track here.
True.
Well, from now on, what I'm going to do at all the silent portions of the show is just put in a laugh track, and then instead of like cutting it down,
Yeah.
Perfect.
that seems to be the best way to do it. So, anyways, how's everybody been?
Pretty good. I've been burying old rugs in random people's yards for the past little bit.
On TikTok. Yeah, I heard your big confession.
There's a big story rumbling out, and I want to let everybody know it was just a prank, bro. It was just a prank.
It's just like, are you sure there wasn't a D in front of the things that you were burying?
Doug?
Drugs.
Drugs. That's right. Spelling. There weren't any in the rugs. I was on all of them.
Well, you know,
he took them out of the rugs.
Just a little bit of like specks of, you know, drugs that like get caught in the rug. You know how it is.
Yeah, I'm down on all fours like a human Roomba, just all the cocaine out of my carpet.
That's what they did in the 80s, right?
Yeah. I can't let that stuff go to waste. Yeah, I get an odd amount of spiders when I'm doing that too, and that's always weird because they're like wiggling out.
It's good protein.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Brie, how have you been?
I'm surviving. I have a vacation in a little less than 2 weeks, and let me tell you, it is my North Star. I was like, I can get through this. I just have a vacation coming up, and then it'll solve all of my problems. So I'm just gunning for that.
I've just hit the slow season where basically I'm just being handed busy work constantly, and my favorite thing about it is literally like all last week was me like just trying to explain things to boomers.
Fun.
My fave.
Even better, explaining things to boomers for boomers who work for the federal government.
Oh,
good.
That's gotta make you feel great about the state of America and like TikTok bans and all that.
This video looks very choppy. It's just like, well, what's your internet bandwidth look like? How many tabs do you have open?
Yeah.
I had to explain image compression.
Oh.
I mean, I kind of understand it, but like, I won't hold that one against them. I get it. Big things smaller.
Bottom line, when you're looking at it on a file sharing service and you see the low res compressed preview, that is not representative of what the image actually looks like.
Okay. So I should have downloaded all of those porns.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, when I send you the clip, like for full fidelity, you know, especially if you're going to be watching it on your Oculus or whatever things that kids are playing with these days.
Pretty sure nothing. Those are not selling well.
Not that I could tell.
We're gonna make them mad at us again. We can't talk about the VR stuff.
Well, like once the Vision Pro comes out and all the rich people are buying up those, that's when we're gonna see the sales start to go up.
It's been out for 8 months.
I know. Name one person who owns one.
Couldn't.
MKBHD.
Yeah, but he's an Apple shill, so he basically just gets those for free.
He is most certainly not. He's an everybody shill.
True.
He shills for Samsung. He shills for Opal when they were allowed to be sold here.
Did you just see the thing where he's come out with like a subscription service for phone backgrounds that is $50 a month?
What? Why? Because you can't just Google image search a new wallpaper.
And the funny thing is, I get it from a perspective like, hey, like, you know, this is a good way for artists to make money, but also at the same time, it's like, who's going to pay for that?
Right.
And
who
like,
has that disposable income? That's a lot of money,
right?
And all it does is literally go to a Google Drive file with the things file, so it's like not even secure.
Oh my god!
It's just. I love it when the tech bros are so out of touch that they don't understand how out of touch they are.
I want to say it's unbelievable, but it's very believable, and I hate it. So.
Yeah. This is the same person who I think a year ago put out a video saying that smartphones haven't peaked yet. And I was like,
they peaked maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, his whole argument was like, but they're still getting faster. The cameras are still getting better. And I'm like, well, then by that logic, computers in general haven't peaked yet. They're still getting faster.
Yeah, It's almost like there was a law they came up with. It was like by some more guy who said like things like improve over time.
Yeah. The thing that the singularity guy.
Yeah. But like it's just like, yeah, it's one of those things. It just blows my mind how like I have to like live in this world where I'm dealing with non-tech savvy people who are out of touch and tech savvy people who are also out of touch, and I'm just like, can we just pick a lane, please?
Thank you.
I just realized I have that exact same shirt, Aaron.
I actually noticed that you wore it on an episode. I didn't say anything. I was wondering if you were going to wear it on accident today, and then we would just be matching.
I almost did. I'm fifth elementing it today, but yeah, I almost.
This was like $5 at Walmart when I found it, so I was just like, okay,
nice.
I'll pay $5 for that shirt.
Yeah, I paid 10 at Kohl's.
Oh man.
Well, cool. We're still supporting corporate chills, so.
Yeah.
What did I do?
Yes.
No ethical consumption under capitalism, guys. That's a special stance of the show.
But you can have educated consumption under capitalism.
Fair enough. Very
important distinction.
Very fair. Anyways, so
I said a smart thing.
And he's leaving for the rest of the podcast. Yeah. He's checking out.
Well, I thought he was
little hook just pull him off.
Well, no, he's just gonna take a couple of rips.
That is my dream.
He's just gonna take a couple of rips off his break, and all the brain cells will just like go.
There we go. Perfect.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that moves us into our first topic of the show, which is our homework assignment, which was assigned by Seth. So, Seth, tell us what we're talking about today.
So, I lied when I said we weren't going to be talking about my traumas anymore. I've been in an emotionally abusive relationship. So, I tricked you.
It's a different trauma this time. How fun.
Well, we agreed no religious trauma, which I feel like disqualifies.
We're growing.
True.
So I feel like you didn't totally lie.
Kevin's dad was a priest.
Yeah, but not like...
Not totally. I misled. Purposely. No, but for anyone who's listening who isn't aware, Kevin Can F Himself is a show about a toxic, emotionally abusive relationship played out where the world as seen by the husband is a sitcom and the world seen by the wife, the victim, is a drama. What did you both think? I'm interested in that.
It made Emily cry twice in the first 2 episodes.
Oh, that's sad.
Well,
I believe that.
I will say the show's so good. The show is really, really good, and there's so many things to like about the show. Obviously, the premise is very dark, to say the least.
Yeah.
And it gets darker as it goes on. I didn't finish it. I'm halfway through the 2nd season, so I'm not like completely done. It's a very hard show to binge and watch all at once.
For sure.
Like especially the first couple of episodes, like you have to like really like. It's like what I said with like watching shows like Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones, where it's just like I can't binge this show. I can only like dedicate so much mental energy at a time.
Yeah.
So
no, I found that.
But I will be finishing.
And this was very Breaking Bad-like at times.
It's an AMC show.
True.
So, that's kind of the bread and butter. But the thing I really kind of liked is, and like, I heard about the show, I knew about the concept previously, but watching the show, I was amazed with how seamless the transition from the multi-cam sitcom to the single-cam drama was, and how well it worked on so many levels, because... Seth, you're right, like, it is, like, so when you're in the sitcom mode, it's Kevin's world and how he basically operates within it. And then when people are no longer around Kevin, they enter into, like, their own personal world, which is more centered around Allison and the drama side of it. When I first started watching it, it felt more like an allegory for masking, because... When she's around Kevin when she's around Kevin in the beginning, she's like trying to be like, housewife, whatever kind of thing. And as soon as she's no longer around Kevin, she can just drop the mask, and like you could see instantly just the level of exhaustion and emotion that comes with it.
And that is valid. She had to wear that mask. She had to pretend to be the person he wanted her to be as a survival method.
Yeah.
Right.
And you kind of see over time, like she starts to kind of stop, like masking around him as like the show progresses.
Yeah. She starts to get her agency back. Brie, what did you think?
So, I love the first season of the show. I think the first season is perfect. And kind of to your point, Aaron, very similar. I've been in a relationship exactly like this. My last relationship was kind of like this. And I feel like it's hard to be with somebody that everybody loves, and you are so miserable. Because let me tell you, when you do end things with that person, it doesn't go well for you. That's all there is to it. And like I feel like, because I did see some like kind of cold takes on this, where just like, well, just divorce him. It's that easy. It's like, just a quick disclaimer to like everybody in the world: divorce is not the easy option.
No, it is not.
Even if it is a more viable option, like previously that was not an option. Period. It is an option now, but it is fucking messy.
Regardless, you're getting a lawyer and courts and other things involved, and if the person is vindictive enough, they can make your life hell.
100%. I have quite a few friends who are going through divorces right now, and it is like, even the amicable ones, it's fucking messy. It is it breaks up your families, it breaks up your friends, and that's assuming that you have any kind of like financial stability where you can afford to do any of these things, which is very much like Allison in this position where he took all of her money, and she has nothing. She works at a liquor store. She can't just fucking leave. And again, that whole appearance of just like, even if she did, everyone would fucking hate her, because again, I've been in this relationship and I did break up with that person. And let me tell you, I lost everything all at once, because people are just like, wow, I'm the heartless bitch that left this great guy that everybody loves, even though wasn't being treated that well. But that's not the way, until like years later, when people came out to me later and they're like, oh wait, he was shitty to you. I was like, yes, he was. He actually fucking sucked. But it's very hard when they have like that, like rock solid of a personality that everybody are that manipulative to other people. It's very hard to break away from that. So that whole, like, I was so emotional the first like couple episodes, because I was like, I feel so bad for this girl. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who have been in this relationship that, like, to your point, probably would need to take some time watching the show, or maybe avoid it altogether, because it could be pretty triggering. I do have some issues with the second season. I won't talk about it like in too much detail, but I do think the second season meanders a little bit, and I got a little bored, to be honest, because I was like, where are we going here? So especially when it came to like Patty's birthday party, like, not the worst thing in the world. I like the show overall, but it did meander a bit in the second season for me.
Yeah, well, they shift the premise for the most part in the second seasons, but like it feels like they almost like start over in a weird way. Like
they're further establishing how like Kevin affects everyone around him.
Yeah,
not
which they
just
start presenting when like Neil starts being reflective on how he's being treated by Kevin and everything else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But no. Go ahead.
Brie, you finished the second season.
I did. Mm-hmm.
Okay. No spoilers, but how did you feel about how it ended?
I mostly am happy with the ending. I do not like the ending for Patty. I think she deserves way better than what she gets at the end.
Don't tell me that. Patty's my favorite.
I agree. I just like
Patty's great.
Patty is literally my note in my phone is Patty is best girl.
Yes, she is. Yeah, after she becomes a girl's girl for sure, because she's not a girl's girl to start. But as a former pick-me, I understand completely, especially when you're around those types of people where you're like, this is how I survive this situation. Yeah. Like I have to be one of the guys. So that hits too close.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, speaking about kind of what I talked about earlier with Emily's, emotional state after the first thing, like the thing that like got her and like we were both on the same page is that like, it starts with this idea like she's idealizing, breaking away or like, but from the perspective of like, let's go buy a house and move and start over somewhere else. And that's how she starts out. And, me and her have been in that kind of thing where it's just like, we feel like we just kind of change context, things suddenly get better. And I think the good thing that the show does is showing that it's just like, look, trying to change your context doesn't necessarily fix all your problems.
Yes, it's a very common thing for relationships too. My therapist used to warn me all the time that like a very common thing for couples to do is just be like, well, once we have this thing, everything will be fine. So it's just like, once we get married, once we have the baby, once we have the house, everything's going to be fixed. And I love that they that juxtaposition of her having that daydream of like her serving him the beer. And she's like, wait a second, that still fucking sucks.
Yeah, well, not to mention that it's just like technically but it's just like, but how does that change anything if you move into a house and then you're still just serving him beer and living the housewife life? It's just like, that's not an improvement of what you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people who go through abuse, and I think this is what the show is trying to show, is that you almost need that fantasy of things being good to convince yourself that you're there. And since you can't properly acknowledge that the relationship is the issue, everything else has to be the problem, right? Once they get that other job, once I'm getting paid more, they'll leave me alone. It's just, we got to get there.
Yeah.
And
that goalpost moves.
And it is always kind of that thing.
All the time.
Everybody always kind of has this idea of just like a change suddenly just kind of moves everything. It's like, really what it does is like, yeah, it maybe takes you away from certain problems, but it can create new ones. As well. And so it is one of those things, and it's just like, but like everybody has this idea that it's just like, this one change will change everything. And it's just like, not necessarily.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, a couple of other notes I had here. Sam sucks.
He's not the worst, but he does suck.
He was pretty bad.
I think Allison kind of sucks, though.
Allison does suck.
I love Allison. I'm an Allison stan over here.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
she's bad. She makes very bad choices a lot of the time.
Again,
I like her. She's sweet-ish.
Well, you went with the whole like Breaking Bad similarities of just like, since she is the protagonist and we are experiencing the show kind of from her perspective, but she does do a lot of things that make you go like,
she is occasionally very dumb, which that was like, there was a couple times where I was like, oh, actually, when they're planting
incompetence.
Correct.
There's multiple instances where I was just like, that's just weaponized incompetence right there.
When they're planting stuff in the drug dealer's like house, I was like, why the fuck are you doing this? This is so stupid. 2, neither of you are wearing gloves. I'm just like,
I thought that.
And they were just sitting in there talking. I'm like, move along, friends. Like, you were doing something super illegal that's very traceable. Don't do it in the first place, because again, very stupid. But if you're gonna do it, be fucking careful about it. Don't hang out in there and drop a bottle and then clean it up. I was just like, Allison, fucking move. So things like that kind of like set me off a little bit, because I was like, I don't think she's this dumb. I don't think she is. So
no, if you're gonna plant evidence, especially pills, you sneak in, you open the bottle, you toss them around a bit on top of their dresser, and then you leave. Right? You wear a hairnet. You put those little gloves on, those little slippy things that go on your shoes. I've done this.
Have a dime bag of one of the pills that you've crushed up, or like, and then like have it on a mirror so it looked like they were snorting it.
Perfect.
And you know what? If you want to take a walk down like any downtown street and pick up some used needles, toss them in there too. You know?
Just make sure it's a drug that they're going to find in their system in the toxicology report.
Yeah, smart. They should have asked us, clearly.
Yeah.
We're officially consulting on evidence planting.
Yes.
Speaking of evidence planting, don't trust cops. Even the ones that hit on you, just don't trust them.
Cops.
Fair.
Just the entire relationship with Patty, and I'm just like, the entire time I'm just like,
Tammy.
Nope, just no, don't trust her. Nope, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Bad idea.
No.
Bad idea all around.
Well, and she's like written to be this way, but she's hyper suspicious from the go. She's like, there's something up with Allison. Something's going on here.
Yeah, I kind of like the relationship.
Is that how bad the lag is?
Just a little bit. It's fine. It's like,
I was sitting in silence for a second there.
Oh yeah,
one of those things that's fine until it's not.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. Maybe it's just we all
need
to move
you were
to
about
the
to
same time zone at some point.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
No, actually, I think that was actually something I wasn't expecting in the show, for Patty to like be potentially bisexual or maybe just gay. Like, I'm like, this is actually really interesting, especially like the whole being one of the guys and like being like, oh, I like beer. I'm not like other girls. And I was like, oh, you're not like other girls because you like other girls. It all makes sense.
All coming around.
This is all coming together now.
Yes, I really like that. I was not anticipating something like that at all, and it was a very interesting. Honestly, I think Patty is one of the best characters in the show. Like, she is so interesting, and I do like her substantially more than Allison. Although I think honestly with both of them, some of their characterization I think is a little wishy-washy, and sometimes that frustrated me a little bit because I'm just like, you guys were just arguing in the last scene and now everything's fine again. Like, Patty's a little too forgiving. I think that's my main
yeah, well, when they start exploring Patty's character arc, like, you know, she's a little bit more empathetic than, you know, they let on at the beginning, because she starts getting into drug dealing to help people who are struggling and just gets in too deep. Allison comes from a selfish position of just wanting to get out of a situation, which is justifiable given the situation, but you know, they're both kind of, you know, one has a more selfish motivation while the other one has a more selfish motivation in the beginning.
I can see that for sure. I feel like Allison is a little more self-serving, and again, justifiably, because she
absolutely
out of the situation.
Not saying she's wrong.
Yeah, for sure. She just tends to be reckless and drag other people into her mess, which like is interesting because like I know I was talking to my partner about this, and I was we were disagreeing a little bit because I was kind of like, I kind of hate. His take was that he's like, oh, well, kind of towards, you know, the middle of the second season, Allison is acting a lot like Kevin. And I think that's supposed to be. And I'm like, I do get that, but I'm like, that messaging is a little dicey for me, especially from her abusive situation. I'm just kind of like, I don't totally love that. It's like, well, she's just like him, though. I'm like, but she's not. She shouldn't be. And like that, it made me feel kind of weird. I mean, it's interesting because it made me think about it, but I kind of I feel weird about that a little bit. I don't totally love the messaging there.
My take on that, and it is hyper dicey, is that she was raised in an abusive relationship from her mother, which you see in that one episode, where her mom initiates the sitcom lighting, and then she's lived with Kevin. She already doesn't really seem to have very much of an idea of who she is. So when she starts to get agency, she starts to do the things that the people around her who have had agency their entire life do. And so I don't think she was intentionally becoming more manipulative. I think that was just what was natural. And there is a really good scene in, I think, the second to last episode where Kevin has a scheme and it aligns with some things that she wants as well. And he gives her that pamphlet, and then the sitcom lighting stays when he leaves. Showing that like she's realizing that like she is kind of, oh no, this isn't the person I want to be. And that's when she drops the pamphlet and everything goes back to normal. So I think they were flirting with it. It is very dicey. Yeah. And I don't think they executed it as well as they did other aspects.
For sure.
But it worked for me in the way that I interpreted it.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the
I think it's one of those things you catch on to Allison's flaws pretty early on, and you understand that she's a flawed person, and like again, you understand it from a certain perspective, but you do start to pick up on just like there are flaws. But when you start moving down the path of just like the idea of you're becoming the monster that you hated so much, again, that's a very cliche way to approach it and not super nuanced. And there's certain things that the show does that basically lacks nuance, which I think is fine in very many cases. But
and then at the same time, other things they expertly handled the nuances of.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like illustrating.
Yeah, well, they especially make like Kevin's character is just like any kind of nuance is completely removed from this character. And it works because it's just like he is a caricature. He is like everything is turned up to 11 in terms of every issue, every problem in his personality. And so making it very clear. And, you know, obviously this is a play on like the sitcom husband, you know, kind of trope.
Specifically Kevin James,
which, you know, I watched King of Queens like back when I was a kid, and like it was just like, this is a very boring and pointless show.
All of them are like
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it as a kid. I was a big sitcom fan as a kid. Yeah. I know my mistake.
And that's the thing, but like, go ahead.
I saw a little bit of an episode of King of Queens after I started Kevin Can F Himself. That's just Kevin James. Yeah. That's exactly who he plays.
Yeah.
And the show was actually based off of his second show, which was what, Kevin Can Wait?
Yeah, Kevin Can Wait.
Where they killed off an actress in between seasons and then they just replaced her
with the same lady he was married to in King of Queens.
Yeah.
Same actress. Yeah. Just like, you can't even pretend. But anyways. So anyways, we were just talking about sitcoms, specifically with Kevin James sitcoms. When was the last time there was like really a popular sitcom that like everybody watched?
Big Bang Theory. And How I Met Your Mother is another one.
Oh yeah, no, it does.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I never liked that show. I don't like sitcoms.
I don't think I ever
did.
I was on How I Met Your Mother, but fell off like very quick.
You were on it? Who'd you play?
No.
I thought I recognized
the
you.
dude in the denim jacket in the background.
Oh yeah, you're talking to Conan O'Brien in that one episode. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know Neil Patrick Harris's mother because he went to La Cueva in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and so there's a whole like Albuquerque connection. Also, apparently, Albuquerque just like is a pipeline for just gay actors going into sitcoms because Jesse Tyler Ferguson is also from Albuquerque.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Does he go to our school? I don't know who that is.
One of the gay parents.
He goes to a school in Canada. You don't know him.
But yeah, no, like it's really weird because sitcoms have kind of died as far as like multicam like laugh track sitcoms. I don't know if it's a format issue or just taste have changed.
I feel like I was going to say that's like I feel like the sitcom like the whole like. I feel like that is kind of in the Stone Age, like especially like how they represent relationships. Like I'd say even like the more recent ones, like super racist still, super sexist still. Like I feel like they held on to a lot of really like old school ideas for a very long time. So I'm kind of happy they're going away.
Well, even their leads when they started coming out with new ones, like it's just like it's Tim Allen who's basically doing Home Improvement but a different show. Kevin James, which is basically King of Queens, but a different show. It's just like they're recycling ideas, and I think it also has
Seinfeld, but he's dating a 17-year-old girl.
No, he was doing that during the show. But I also think since we've moved more and more into like on-demand streaming, the episodic, style of how sitcoms used to work just kind of just shifted. There was a big thing with Arrested Development, like how when it went from like Fox Network to streaming on Netflix when they revitalized that season, where it's just like trying to adapt just didn't work.
Yeah. I never saw it, but I had to hear that.
Yeah. Well, the sitcom itself, though, it has moved away from multicam because The Office is a sitcom, Parks and Rec is a sitcom, and those shows are still beloved right now.
I never cared about The Office.
I liked it the first 2 years and then I stopped. But it's that like what we expect from comedy in that like half-hour format has completely changed. Yeah. People really don't like being told when to laugh.
Yeah.
And it's also there's this like dissonance between when a performer comes on stage and goes to deliver their line and then they're a fan favorite, so the audience is cheering and they're just mugging there, just like
No. If you ever like watch clips of like sitcoms without the laugh track, it really makes you realize how little actual content there is in the shows.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Well, Drew Gooden, we're going to be talking about here in a second. He did a whole video on do laugh tracks ruin comedy? And he took the laugh track. He showed a scene from Big Bang Theory where they just kept pumping in a laugh track where it was just three people sitting around playing Uno.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, I got 2 cards left. Ha 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 ha. Uno. Ha 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 ha.
You remove the laugh track and it's just like a very awkward conversation between like people doing nothing.
Yeah. So we really do need that laugh track.
I will definitely be
you're the exception.
I'll be on stock websites trying to find one. Maybe I should find an AI generated laugh track.
Yes, you know what? That's right.
The only good AI is Girly Girl Productions. I'm saying it right now.
I don't want to know what that is.
You've heard it. Okay, so they create AI songs about like girly girl things, but the lyrics are like,
I've heard this.
I don't need money from a man. Yeah, I killed a man. I don't need anything from a man. Actually, give me your money. I have my own money, but I want yours. Going out, I need all my girly girl things, like 7 lines of Coke. These are incredible songs. Yep. It's so good.
It's one of those things, like, I recognize all of those from, my TikTok algorithm. And I guess I just assumed they were AI because it's just like, this seems like AI production from something. Yep. But yeah, that does not shock me.
They are phenomenal songs. Well, more hilarious than actually good.
Fair.
They're in the TikTok world, so therefore, like, what people do with them makes them funnier.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of view like that kind of stuff.
I can see that. I still like the songs. I've listened to them without the TikTok. But what were we talking about with the show we watched this week?
Well,
what?
Spoilers for everybody listening. I screwed up the recording and accidentally stopped it at some point, so we're having to kind of jump back in and retread territory. We've already added more content that we did not talk about previously because we're trying to keep the show as organic as possible.
Yeah.
Eventually, we are going to replace Seth with AI, but we're building up, the training data.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
It'll be like religious trauma joke, laugh track. But no, like one of the kind of main things about the show, specifically, like as we've kind of talked about throughout, is basically about being in abusive relationships. And, we grew up in a time where everybody identified abusive relationship meant like, oh, they're hitting you. And that was like basically what the through line is for like what an abusive relationship was. And that's why I think it's kind of good that we have shows like this kind of showing that, like, no, abuse is more than just physical. There is mental, emotional, manipulative abuse that people do in relationships.
Yeah. And just accepting that emotional abuse and psychological abuse matter and count as abuse, that's a very recent thing within like the last decade that people have started acknowledging and raising awareness for. When I went through my experience, I didn't know. So I was just like, why are they acting like this? None of this makes sense. And people are telling me, dude, you got to get out. You need to get out. This is not normal, but we can't explain why it's not normal. Just not right.
Right. And, also like relationships are complicated, to say the least. And, there were some moments watching the show where it's just like, oh, I have done something similar to like that, or I've said things similar like that. And part of kind of personal growth is realizing when you do shitty things to people who don't deserve them and figuring out how to basically, 1, make amends where you can, 2, try not to do that to anybody else, and 3, just flat out just like call people out for when they also do it. And, you're not necessarily going to get forgiveness from the people who you hurt, but like you can at least try to do what you can to fix damages you cause and not keep perpetrating the same trauma over and over again. You can do better.
Therapy is helpful.
It's very helpful. If you can. And also,
have you guys been talking to Emily again?
And also, if you've been in an abusive situation, you don't owe them forgiveness.
Nope.
Right? That is completely up to you if you want to do that. And if you don't, good.
You never have to forgive your abuser.
Absolutely. Never. That's a good point. Thank you, Seth. I appreciate you bringing that up, genuinely.
Absolutely. Thank you. I get to feel smart 2 times this episode.
All right, but now you don't get to be smart.
The other no, I can't. I'm going to be drunk the next episode. My other time being smart was on the recording that we did get, right? I don't have to figure out whatever that was.
That one was a little bit early. We actually purposely cut out the dumb stuff you did.
Oh, okay, good. Like when I drank a bunch and set my apartment on fire.
It's like he moved his furniture to cover up the burn marks. There's a reason Bo's not in frame anymore.
No, he's out in the living room.
I saw you run off and I was like, what's Bo doing?
Yeah, I had to stop. But I'm back now and I'm good.
Right.
All right. So, any final thoughts from anybody?
It's good. I liked it. I think I'm gonna try and say this again. Let me see what I said. But I think the sitcom thing is genius. I really love the setup for the show. And I just like getting to see this view of, again, like to your point, like maybe a kind of different abusive relationship. Neglect is definitely a form of abuse, which I feel like is shown pretty well here. And also just kind of showing, which I don't think they mentioned it like outright, but like, again, that divorce and just leaving is not always an option. I'd say very rarely it's the easy option. So obviously killing your partner is not necessarily an ideal situation, but desperate people do desperate things, especially when you don't really have any other options. So I thought this show is really, really good. Again, I have some issues with some of the framing of some things and also just the pacing of season 2. But I think overall it's a phenomenal show. And with the caveat of it could be triggering for some people, I would recommend this to anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally, you mentioning killing your husband versus divorcing it made me think of the original Fable, which I know you'll appreciate. Whereas if you convince your partner to divorce you, it's like 3,000 evil points, but if you just murder your spouse, it's only 20 evil points.
Oh,
because that's how morality works.
Also,
so which one's worse, really?
I forgot Fable was a game series for half a second, and I was like, wait, there's an original Fable that, like, we know the original Fable?
Yeah, from Peter Molyneux.
Yeah.
The man who had invented fables.
Oh.
But yeah, one last thing though. Yeah, I agree that
I agree.
that
I agree.
It's your campaign slogan. No, that wouldn't work.
We can make it work. We have the technology.
I wrote a $100,000 man joke a little while ago, and I'm not that old. I'm not going to post that anywhere. But yeah, the second season does meander. I think the party episode could have just been cut out entirely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I also found myself going like, all right, I get this scene is just reinforcing Neil's still mad. So let me just clip. All right, next scene. All right.
Yes.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm glad you guys did too.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously we all watched this on streaming services. So a little bit of kind of interesting conversation that we can have around it. Are streaming services just wasting our time? The answer is yes, but
yeah. I had already watched that video, so I was just skimming it before we started. I don't remember what I was about to say, and it's gone now. So
oh dang it! Well, hopefully it comes back. For context, Drew Gooden put out a video called "Everybody Wants to Waste Your Time," and he hits a couple different points, but I thought especially one. I just think it's a great video, and I think he brings up a lot of really solid points. And honestly, watching the show we just did, I kind of got some vibes from that, and I don't know if it's just because I had watched this video previously, but like the fact that basically purposely they're making shows with more episodes than they need to because they're trying to up the watch time. Mm-hmm. They are including people with sketchy credentials to run pad time, especially to pad runtime, especially with documentaries and stuff, like including like YouTubers and like people with an internet connection as like experts, just to kind of be like, we need to interview more people. And also, which I thought was the most interesting, purposely making shows longer with the intention that you are not paying attention to it. That they're like, okay, well, we have to repeat this information multiple times to make sure that the audience gets it, because they're probably on their phones, they're probably doing other things. And that's the point that kind of worries me the most, because I'm actually like personally I'm trying to get better at like just watching things, because I feel again late stage capitalism has given us the expectation that we have to be doing so many things at once, and I'm like I'm trying to get better. I'm just like I'm going to sit down and watch this thing, and I'm getting more irritated by the things I watch for that exact reason, where I'm just like, they already fucking said this, what's happening?
Yeah, well, the main reason that this is happening is because now more and more streaming services are bringing out ad models, and so in order to have more room for ad insertion, they need to basically have longer run times. So longer run times mean they could do more ad insertion, which means more ads, more money, all that other kinds of stuff, because it's gotten to the point on streaming services where they've hit the ceiling on like how much money they can make without constantly raising rates.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they're starting to introduce
speak to that.
Go ahead.
Speak to that. I watched a 10-minute YouTube video the other day that had 10 ad breaks. So they can fit more ads in wherever they fucking want.
Oh,
they can,
Christ. Yeah, no, it's getting pretty bad. And, you know, as somebody who works in the marketing field, it's really funny because I keep explaining to my bosses, it's just like, hey, you need to stop complaining about how long the things I'm making are, because believe it or not, making shorter stuff is not actually better for what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Like platforms want longer form content. Sure, like everybody, like even TikTok now has 10-minute long videos. It's like, who the fuck is watching a 10-minute long TikTok?
Not me.
Based off the ones you've sent me, a couple.
Oh no, trust me, those are ones that Emily sends me to send you.
Oh, okay.
Because she doesn't trust that you'll see them as she sent them to you. But no, like
I see them.
Emily will.
I see the little notification.
Emily literally will send me like 10-minute long videos, just like, I'm not gonna sit down and watch this.
No,
on TikTok, that's not good content.
Yeah, but there is a thing where it's just like, especially in like YouTube and other content platforms, like they want you making longer content, and it's one of those things where it's just like that. Like it's hard to try and stretch things out sometimes. And, you know, especially with the stuff that I'm working on right now, like, yeah, I can cut it down to be shorter, but, you know, when you cut the fat out of something, you're also cutting out a lot of the flavor. And so the thing that you're having me make ends up coming out super generic and just not really interesting at certain points. But, yeah, streaming services are definitely trying to stretch how long things need to be, and they're doing it specifically for the purpose of like, okay, now we're making ad revenue, we need to have more room for more ads.
Yeah, I think too it is a little different when we're talking about YouTube streaming and television streaming.
Yeah,
because YouTubers, like in the video we watched, he talks about how some people just push that thing to 4 hours so that the algorithm will throw it up.
Yep.
Yes.
Right. And like I really like the YouTube channel called Captain Midnight. I don't know if either of you watch him, but he does like philosophical debates on like what's happening with the MCU and like what's the state of Hollywood and whatever. Philosophical was a way too big a word for that sentence. And describing that channel. But his videos are typically about 10 minutes long. After the first 5 minutes, he just starts repeating himself using different words.
Yeah.
And it's like, you could have just made a 5-minute video, dude.
Yeah. Again, it's okay to cut things out. And, like, you know, sometimes when I'm writing certain stuff, like, it's just like, I'll repeat more or less something about rephrasing it, but it's more for clarification than it is for, like, just stretching out a script. It's just like, I'll say it the super, super technical way, and then repeat it, but in a way that's just like, and here's the dumb person way to say it. So that, like, I establish, like, here's the correct way to describe this, and here's how I would describe it to somebody if they were, you know, a child. Because I'm respecting the intelligence of the actual people who knows how this works, while also making sure the people who don't are there. But then I get told that I need to cut stuff out, so it's just like, which one do you want me to cut? Do you want me to cut the technical respect people's intelligence version, or do you want me to cut the talking like a child version?
Right.
Based off of what you said, I was going to make a joke. You go real.
Okay. I was gonna say, I'm like, I feel like what you're talking about like makes a ton of sense to me. And like, I feel like this is more like egregious on YouTube because I'm like, at least in the videos I've seen, there's a bunch of people that I enjoy watching, but they've gotten to the point where like they'll literally like show themselves setting up their camera, taking a sip of their coffee, sitting down. I know, I'm just like, edit this out. Fucking edit this out. I'm like 2 minutes into the video and they're just like, anyways, guys. And I was like, what are we fucking doing? And it's been happening with a lot more channels I've been watching where I'm just like, and I'm almost empathetic in the sense because like I thought at first I was like, okay, editing's a lot of work. Maybe you're like, okay, I don't need to edit this part out. I'll edit the more like, the ums and whatever. But I'm like, oh no, they're actually doing it just to make sure, because they probably don't have quite enough to talk about. So they have this like unedited, and almost like all of the smaller channels I watch are all doing that now. And it bums me the fuck out, because I'm like, I want to support you, but like, I'm not going to fucking watch this shit. So I'm watching every video on 1.5 speed, because I'm like, I would like the content, please, if we can get to that fucking content. So it is a bummer.
Oh. My hand hovers over that right arrow for that like 5-second skip.
Yeah.
Just, all right, skip. All right, there we go.
Especially when you get to an ad read that's 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I was like, I get it. You're trying to make money. It's fine. Get back to the thing I want to hear about. And I'm just like,
and at the beginning too, which he says in his video, but it's like the fact that so many people are doing, and I know they have to do the ad things, but it's like, you're doing it at the beginning of your video. I don't even know if I fucking want to watch this yet. And now I'm irritated because you talked about fucking, a probably super problematic brand for 3 minutes. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll never know what this video is about.
A brand that's not going to exist in 6 weeks.
It's like fucking BetterHelp or something. I'm like, oh, cool, great.
BetterHelp's great.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where it's just like, and that's the thing, and like going back to like a lot of other kind of like marketing training terms, it's just like, oh, you should basically state everything you're going to talk about in like the first whatever thing in the video. It's just like, why don't I just get to the point? And so like a lot of the times, like my journalist brain fights with like the marketing brain, where it basically just the journalist brain is like, shut the fuck up and get to the point.
But how are you going to know how to make my recipe if I don't list my entire life story before it?
Well, my grandma back, and it's like, I don't care.
It's like, here's a 10-page essay about the origins of this recipe. Anyways, here are all the ingredients that you'll need.
Yeah.
Just like, SEO killed the internet.
Yeah.
No fucking question. I was gonna say something I totally fucking forgot.
I'm sorry. That was me.
No, not your fault. Honestly, it's like I just have like my brain is no good, unfortunately. I need a new one. It's the worst.
Hey, you get that Neuralink.
Oh, there we go. You know what? Great idea. Thank you. The 4-hour video things, I have seen more and more of them lately, which is also a huge bummer, because again, I think outside of like in some of the examples he gave, like Jenny Nicholson makes great fucking videos. I've watched a lot of her videos, but they should be 4 hours, because she does an extensive amount of research, and like she actually stays at these places, XYZ. Like that makes complete sense. But like a lot of it's like drama videos. Like I can't tell you, like I fell down a JoJo Siwa like rabbit hole one time, and there was so many. You
won't believe what JoJo Siwa did this. Anyways, talking about JoJo Siwa is.
Yes, exactly.
What was with... sorry, quick tangent. What was with that dance move where she puts her hand over her head like this, turns sideways, and then flops her legs? Did you see that choreography? It's like months old now, but it was after that first one where she's just like... Sorry, please continue.
Was this before or after the kiss makeup?
This is after.
Okay.
It bums me out so bad, because I'm just like, man, she's not a good dancer, and I'm just like, I have girls in my studio who could dance her out of the fucking table, and she's making so much money, and that makes me so angry. And the choreographers she's working with are also not the greatest. So I was like, I'm so glad that we're just throwing money at this person. That's fine.
I like how I just used an example of something that we could stretch out for content, and then we just went on a huge tangent about JoJo Siwa. We're doing so great, guys. Let's get this podcast up to 4 hours somehow.
I was saying there's gonna be a 4 to 6 hour podcast for sure. We can do it.
It's like, I don't respect your guys' time.
No,
I really respect my own. It's totally fine.
My time is used to being disrespected. You're fine.
Yes. He mentions in the video as well that I think a big part is like people are just chasing the algorithm, right? Like, because it's just like they're like, okay, this is what people like now. But there are plenty of channels that don't do the chasing, and they are very, very successful. So like to his point, I'm like, you can't just make the content you want to make. One of my favorite channels is like Overly Sarcastic Productions, and they have done the exact same thing for like, I want to say 10 years now. It's just two people who are, one talks about like mythology, the other one talks about history, and they switch off every other week. And they make like 10, 15-minute videos, and they're great fucking videos because they're super well researched. They really care about the topic, and it's concise. It says exactly what I need it to without any fluff. And they've been successful for years. I'm like, you can do it. Like, you don't need to talk about nothing for 40 minutes, I promise.
The general advice I give whenever I'm talking to people about this kind of stuff is always just like, don't algorithm chase, because the algorithm's going to completely change by the time you start getting any kind of traction. The people who are actually successful at this are people who are just doing the shit they want to do. And, nobody is an overnight success on this. You're going to have shit views for a long time before something catches on. And when it does catch on, you need to stay true to yourself. Don't chase algorithms. Don't chase, whatever the new hot trend is just so you can stay relevant. Like, do what works for you. Don't just keep making shit because this is what, some dude with a communications degree said is the best practices. Because the best practices are pointless. There's like no such thing as evergreen content or anything else like this, because by the time that content comes out, it's already outdated.
100%. The internet goes so quickly. Like, you can even see like channels that I have watched that do follow the trends. You can even see it in like their thumbnails, like how the thumbnails changed based on whatever the algorithm was dictating at that time. And it happens so fucking rapidly. So it's just like, and he says this in the video as well. It's just like, and I'm very similar, where like I will watch anybody talk about anything if they're passionate enough about it. Like, I've watched plenty of videos where I'm like, I don't know anything about this, but this person is so interested in this that it's making me interested in it. Like,
you can't
do that.
fake enthusiasm about like whatever the topic is, like, because you can tell when people don't give a shit about what they're talking about. They're just basically person with a talking points or script that was provided by them, and they're saying like, that's what makes the ad reads like so unbearable to like listen to, because it's just like they're just reading ad copy. But when they're actually talking about the things that they're interested in and they're excited about and that they've done the research or know a lot about, it comes through. That's what we did when I worked at Knife Center, where it's just like, hey, I don't know a whole lot about this shit, but this guy does. And if we get him on camera talking about it, it's going to go way better than me trying to like explain it. Like, I'm trying to learn, I am interested in it, but like, he's a fucking knife nerd. Get him on camera talking about it. And that channel went from, when I started, 20,000 subscribers to like now they have over 500,000 subscribers.
Nice.
By the time I left. So I'm just like, don't fake it. Just actually give a shit about the things you're talking about.
Yeah.
100%.
Shit. It's gone. I lost it. Never mind.
Anyways, speaking of things we give a shit about, over our podcast break, we actually had International Podcast Day. And as a podcast, I would imagine that we all listen to different podcasts and like kind of things that are giving us inspiration for
I only listen to this show on a loop.
My favorite show.
And Game Birds. And Game Birds. Don't forget about Game Birds.
And Game Birds. And Game Birds.
Ding. But no, it's a nice kind of thing, because like podcasts have grown in popularity a lot, I would say, over the last like 5 years. We could point to a lot of different reasons. Part of the reason could be the fact that like people are trying to make 4 hours worth of content.
Yep.
And a podcast is an easier way to make longer form content, to be completely fair. It's actually one of the things I've recommended is like, look, podcasts are one of those things you don't have to do a lot of pre-production work to get them going. You don't have to do a whole lot of scripting, and you can kind of just riff for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there will be good nuggets that you can cut into smaller pieces later and reuse. But, there's been podcasts that I've been listening to for years, and there's things that I find every now and again, and there are varying degrees. There are some podcasts that, like, are very, like, But some of the good stuff I have. So what are some podcasts that you guys like to listen to?
I had to look it up really quick, so if anyone has one right off the dome.
Okay.
Game Birds!
I do. I've been listening to How Did This Get Made pretty much since at least the first year. I love it. I'm a huge Bad Movie fan. It's the people who host it, Paul Scheer. I almost said Schaefer, but I'm pretty sure it's Scheer. June Diane Raphael and Jason Mantzoukas are great. They're really funny, really great chemistry. I also listen to the Weekly Planet for like pop culture newsy stuff, and then Behind the Bastards, which I've name dropped on here so many times, which is an autobiography or a biography, not autobiography, of the worst people in all of history, living or dead.
Interesting.
You do end up learning a lot about Hitler, so I got to warn you there.
Yeah,
Good to know.
Fair enough. What kind of format do you like listening to? Like, what's about these podcasts that specifically kind of grab you?
Well, I love talking about bad movies and listening to people talk about bad movies. I'm also a big comedy fan, so that works. But the Weekly it's the Weekly Planet's the YouTube channel, or no, that's the. Never mind. Fucking losing my mind here, looking at a bird. That's, like I said, pop culture news. They're enjoyable people. They say funny things from time to time. So, like, all right, I can stomach this to hear about like what's happening in Hollywood.
It's personality driven mostly than anything else.
Mostly,
I feel like it's most podcasts that like get popular have like solid personalities behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do love a dollop style though. I think if we're going like format, my favorite would be a dollop. You both know what that is, right?
I don't.
I didn't just say a thing that I made up. Oh, okay.
Explain it for the audience.
Not for us, we know.
So the Dollop was a podcast. This is where I first learned about the format, which is where you have two people. One knows everything on a topic and the other knows nothing. I believe it's like that YouTube channel you were saying. And then they explain it to the other person while the other person interrupts with questions or whatever.
Right.
My favorite version of this that ever existed was a show that they no longer do called Hound Tall, where they would bring on an expert in a field and then 4 comedians. And while the expert was lecturing, the comedians would interrupt with jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Great. But yeah, that's my favorite format for a podcast.
I guess I didn't realize that had a name, to be honest. Like, I'm familiar with that format.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was
when you
called
explain it to me, it's like, oh yeah, I've seen millions of those. But
yeah, they're everywhere.
Knowing the name of it, it's like, okay, got it. Brie, what about you? Or some podcasts?
Completely fair. I'm trying to coin that term. No one else has ever said it. I came up with it.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. I will say, like, I used to hate podcasts, fun fact, like a really long time ago. And I the only kind I would used to like exclusively was more like a radio drama, so to speak, where it's just like it's telling an ongoing story. And I will say I think that is still my preferred kind of podcast. Like, I just like storytelling. I just think it's really interesting. And like, I think podcasts are such a cool way to tell a story. And it can still be very immersive. The one I'm listening to right now is called Tower 4. And it's somebody like on a oh my God, like Fire Watch Tower, and him going through that. And that's been super interesting. So I've been enjoying that, but also like Welcome to Night Vale is a good example of that. A spinoff of that was Alice Isn't Dead, which is also a very good one. I do also listen to, I swear I'm not like a ride or die true crime girly because I think it is mostly unethical, a lot of them. I do listen to Morbid. It's the only one that I still like, mostly because they go over old-timey cases a lot of the time and like older hauntings. And I think that stuff is really interesting. I like when we talk about true crime from like where the family members aren't still alive and could be like mad about you disrespecting their family members.
That's fair.
And also, I do like it from the guys who just like, that the cops have always been awful, because let me tell you, they've always been awful and also very bad at solving crime of any fucking kind. So it does like substantiate like those kind of things, which I love. Overly sarcastic.
You can ignore all of our drug planting advice from earlier because it doesn't matter. They're not going to figure it out anyways.
They're not going to find it anyways. Like, cops are, fun fact, very bad at their jobs. It's a bad institution, as it turns out, forever. So I do like that that kind of view of it. I also like...
I got pulled over once. Sorry. Mm-hmm. I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
I got pulled over once and I had weed in the car. I was in a different state
You've told
where it's not legal. But not on air.
Yeah.
No, I haven't told this part of it. Not this fucking part. I know. Cop comes to the window. I take the jar, toss it under the passenger seat, and they're like, "We gotta look through the car." They look through the entire car, walk back up, and go, "All right, where'd you hide it?" I lobbed it under the seat, and they couldn't fucking find it.
Oh, what a bunch of dummies.
Yeah.
surprising,
I'm
but
sorry, I interrupted.
No worries. I think the only other one I wanted to mention was, again, Overly Sarcastic Productions. They do have a podcast where they talk about the videos, and I just like them a lot. Like, again, it's a very much a personality thing. They're just really smart and really well educated about the things that they know a ton about, and it's fun to listen to them. And yeah, that's generally what I like. I like the more storytelling, but I am kind of I'm liking a little more of like the talkie podcasts. And also Game Birds is really good, and you should listen to Game Birds. We're gonna put out a new episode eventually. Things are just really tough right now.
I was actually about to ask. I was just like, I haven't I got like your last video in my feed, but I didn't get like a newer video. I was just like, did they post this week? I was like, yeah, I guess not. Okay.
I actually have 2 like already recorded. It's just a matter of editing, and then unfortunately the next game we're gonna play turns out sucks a lot, and we're not sure that we want to shit all over this game, so now we're having to recalibrate a little bit. So.
Yeah, we had a conversation last time about like, yeah, no, it's just like it's kind of hard when it's just like, like when you're crapping on a AAA video game, it's way different than trashing on an indie.
Yeah, it feels way worse, and I'm just like, I haven't even played the game yet, but I'm just like, yeah, she said it's very beta, and I'm just like, oh, that's such a bummer. I'm like, so we'll see.
I mean, you could frame it as like, you know, a lot of times these games are a work in progress, or like there's ideas that aren't fleshed out, but that depends on how you want to frame it.
It's a Kickstarter game too, so I think that makes it a little more challenging, just because that it's like, oh well, they did promise people a lot of things, and
Kickstarter has a lot of problematic stuff to it with some of the projects that go up on there, which again is a thing you guys can talk about if you want to, but again, I'm not going to tell you how to run your show.
TBD on that, but Chicken Journey should be coming out soon, and then Lo-Fi Games, so eventually.
Fair enough.
Chicken Journey sounds good.
It's so good.
Is it?
Yeah, it's great.
I noticed that a lot of the games that Brie plays always like have like an animal insert thing that they do.
100%, yeah.
Chicken Journey.
I have a brand and I'm not mad about it. So you can tell which games I pick.
Raccoon Trash Dive.
Yep.
Untitled Goose Game.
Oh, so good.
That wasn't funny.
Goat Simulator. No, yeah, I'm a more fan of like the talkie kind of podcasts, like Seth kind of brought up, like things that were like are a little bit more personality driven. You know, you like the people and you kind of just like hearing them riff for the most part, and like sometimes just like tell stories. My favorite podcast, The Comedy Button, actually ended about a year and a half ago, and it went on for over a decade. And so it's really weird to have like a show where I started listening to when I was like in my, you know, early 20s, and then like end as I turned 30. And
that is weird.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting. So it's The Comedy Button, and so it's Max Scoville, Brian Altano, Scott Bromley, Ryan Scott, all people who are like former or current IGN employees, but it's not tied to IGN. It's basically just they're like coworker friends, kind of like my brother and me. And like that, like just like we're tied to this bigger thing, but the thing that we're doing is completely separate, and we're just more or less just kind of shooting the shit. And so it's really weird because, you know, my comfort episode is episode 7, where they're talking about basically the drunken bender Brian and Max go on after Brian just got dumped. And as the show goes on over the next decade, they're all married with children and all these other kinds of things by the time the show's over. So it's just like this weird sort of just like, this is like a weird portion of my life that happened for me.
You like grew up with those people, yeah.
And it's just gone now.
Yeah.
They did actually post a few weeks ago like a special episode that they did where I guess they just all got together and were just like, hey, get the microphones out, let's record an episode. And like they talked about Max Scoville is a sperm donor for his lesbian friends. And so and they asked him around the same time that his wife was pregnant, so he, you know, has a daughter, and then also his friends have a children who are up his sperm donor, and they're close and spend time, and just like how weird that experience is.
Oh. Interesting.
That would be odd.
And like, you know, but like but they come from it from a humorous perspective, so like they're just like doing kind of the thing with the dollop thing where it's just like asking him, it's just like, okay, so what's the experience of donating sperm like? Like, did they ask you questions?
Very clinical.
Like, it's like, do they ask you questions? Do they do this? Like, what kind of porn did they have in the room? He's just like, yeah, it was really weird. They actually made me sign a thing about I would not use their internet for explicit purposes. It's just like, what the hell you think I'm going to be using your internet for at a sperm bank?
Yeah.
That's literally why I'm here.
Like, he made a joke about it's just like one of the magazines is just like, okay, now I know like most of the women in this magazine are dead.
Oh no.
But, you know, again, just like really funny because like it has that feeling of just like you're in the room with them, just like having a stupid conversation with your friends.
Yeah.
And it's just like really weird for like to end. They've done a spinoff recently called This Thing Rolls, so it's just two of them, Max and Brian, and they're just doing like a topic-based show where they talk about their experience with a certain thing. Their most recent thing was convenience stores, where they're basically just an hour and a half podcast talking about their stories from 7-Eleven.
So Clerks.
Basically. Well, they reference Clerks. It was funny in the episode. They actually talked about Mike Judd and how, like, the high school he went to, which was my high school.
Oh,
and how
neat.
Beavis and Butthead are based off of friends he had at that high school.
Huh.
And so it was just kind of like, oh, hey, weird. People referring to, like, something I'm familiar with.
I know thing.
Yeah. I've also started listening to Geekenders, which is kind of an extension of the old Polaris co-optionaling TGS podcast where they talk about video game stuff. It's Dodger and Jesse Cox. Originally, during co-optional, they did it with Total Biscuit, who passed of cancer, I think, in 2016. So they kept that show going for a while. Eventually, they sunsetted it, and then they just basically started up again. And that's another one of those shows where it's just like, I remember when you guys were just a bunch of dumbasses in Los Angeles working at Maker Studios.
Oh.
And now, you know, they're
Maker Studios.
Yeah, and now they're both independent. One Dodger is married, living in the UK on a farm. And everything else. I was just like, oh, so you're just living the life I wanted. Got it.
Yeah. So I'm jealous.
Oh,
is what
great.
we're saying.
Yeah. But they're still just
It is always fun watching somebody else live your dream.
Yeah. But again, it's just like talk about video game stuff. They talk about a lot about indie titles a lot of the times, which is really fun to kind of hear. Like, I get a lot of gaming referrals from that whenever they talk about like a certain indie game that I wasn't familiar with. It's always kind of really fun. And yeah, that's about it. Every now and again I find I'll listen to like an NPR podcast type thing, just as because like my default when I'm driving into work and commuting is always NPR, just because like at least this one isn't like totally crazy. But they can be. Not saying NPR doesn't have its problems.
Of course. They all do.
Yeah. No, the only radio that doesn't have any problems or controversies is ham radio. You gotta get that big tower, and that
I know
sucks.
ham radio operator. Trust me, there's problems.
Good. Perfect.
That's great. So happy.
But the podcast you should all be listening to is Internet Friends. It's the best, worst podcast ever made.
We're all on it, so.
Yep. I can't think of a joke.
Yeah.
And Gay Birds, thank you.
Brie, you're spending all of your Game Bird references for this month.
I know, you listen.
Now I'm not gonna talk.
Gotta cash in.
Now I'm not gonna talk about it till December.
It's only the 5th, Brie. You gotta make these things last.
You haven't even made an episode.
You told us you learned how to handle money.
Oh, I lied. Oh, that's not true.
No, she learned how to handle money from watching YouTube, so that tells you how much she knows.
Yeah, the videos were too long, so I just stopped. Like, I get the gist.
She was just like, okay,
buy more, I think.
It's like, cancel Netflix, stop going to Starbucks, and sell my car, and I guess that means I'll like be rich now. That's how finances
and
work.
No avocado toast seems weird, but okay.
I was just about to make an avocado toast joke.
I got you.
Make me fucking do it.
You want to know why you're poor? It's because your parents didn't give you money.
Yep. In
That'll
fact,
do it.
They even stole some of it.
That is true.
Drama.
Yeah.
Where do you guys like? What's your podcast habit? Like, in what context are you listening to a podcast? I'm kind of curious about this.
I walk my dog for 3 to 4 miles every day, and so that gives me time to listen.
Is he like a border collie or something? Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's a high energy dog that needs a lot of stimulation or something.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a totally great decision I had.
Some people take up pole dancing, some people get a border collie. You know, we all have to do what we have to do to stay in shape.
100%. Just random examples.
Yep.
For podcasts, like, to be very honest, like, I think this is my like neurodivergent brain where just like I constantly have to change what my stimulation is. So I will like sometimes podcasts are really great in the car. Sometimes I can't stand listening to them in the car. Sometimes I like to work out to podcasts because then I have like a full hour and it'll like be with me for the whole workout versus like perfectly curating a playlist. So really anywhere. I just like I mostly in the car and for workouts, but I think those are the major contexts. But it depends on my mood and on the moon phase and what the temperature is outside and what I'm feeling and thinking that day. So who's to say? It's certainly not me.
How much my hair color has faded at that time of the month? Who knows?
Correct. Freshly dyed. Got it done yesterday.
I was going to compliment.
It looks great.
Yeah, I was going to comment it on in the pre-show.
Thank you. It's got more purple in it.
Yeah, no, I typically
Nice.
like podcasts are definitely my go-to for like, okay, you're now sitting in a soundproof room for the next like 8 hours. What are you gonna fill time with? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of my go-to. I also fall asleep to them a lot, also, which is like kind of weird. But
interesting.
It is one of those things where it's just like, for whatever reason, sometimes just putting on a podcast and just like I'll fall asleep to it. And so Emily hates it, so I have to put on headphones and stuff. And then, of course, I wake up in the middle of the night and like my headphones are gone and I have to go ruffling through the bed to find where my headphones are.
Perfect.
And then, yeah, like occasionally on the drive home or drive in, depending if there's like a new one to listen to. I also have the neurodivergency where like I can listen to the same podcast over and over and over again until like the next episode comes out. It's just like, okay, cool. Now I will listen to this one over and over and over again until the next episode comes out.
Oh, I feel so seen. That makes me so happy because I do that constantly. So
well, it's also because like it's just like it's like, did I finish this episode? I don't remember finishing this episode, but I gotta start from the beginning.
Well, sometimes I don't fully pay attention, so it's like it's nice to watch it, listen to it a second time because I was like, I don't think I heard this part before. So
they're a passive form of content. They're typically not like they're on in the background. They're not necessarily like a forefront piece of media, which is why like a lot of times, like I said previously, it's just like there will be like really good pieces of nuggets that you can clip and like put out like separately, but for the most part, like podcasts like they're something you have on in the background. It's not your main thing that you're looking at. I never understood people who could be playing a video game, have a video going in like the background, and then also be doing like a research paper next to it. I'm just like, that is way too much stimuli.
I can do 2 of those things.
I was about to say.
Not 3. That's too much stimulation.
Yeah, for the most part, it depends on the video game. If it's like highly narrative and like voice acted and stuff, it's just like, okay, everything's going on in this video game. If it's like just like a passive sort of almost idle game, it's just like, okay, I can have a YouTube video on here and then
perfect.
Play it. That's fine.
Yeah, if I've played the game before, like even God of War, I'll throw that in sometimes and like put on an audiobook and sit there and play while listening to an audiobook.
Yeah, it has to be something that I know, like, it's just like, okay, I don't need to pay attention to this. I could just...
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's why I can't do audiobooks. Audiobooks I would love to get into, but I cannot focus hard enough, and then I just miss entire chapters. So I'm like, okay, well.
Yeah, I keep trying with audiobooks. It's just, to me, it's just such a different experience. Me and Emily did listen to World War Z like a while back. I think I talked about it. And like specifically the like full cast World War Z. So like every character is like uniquely casted and everything else like that. It was really, really good. But like, yeah, like in terms of like sitting down and like listening to somebody read a book, it's just like, not into this.
That's fair.
I got into it with the Game of Thrones books, but yeah, there are multiple times where I'm like, I should probably rewind like 20
I have
minutes.
no idea what's going on. So.
I
blanked out there.
I did do an audiobook once in college for like an assigned reading assignment. It was like one of those things where it's just like, this is the quickest way I'm going to be able to actually have the information in the book given to me, and I'll probably retain more of it than if I tried to like force myself to read it as I go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like the teacher established that they were very good at knowing when you read the Spark Notes and if you actually read the book.
Fair.
So, yeah. Speaking
and
of
we
reading
never
books,
have to deal with that shit ever again.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
School. It's over for us all. I mean, I didn't go, but it sounded awful for you two.
Fair enough.
I didn't hate school as much as I think I did.
College was fun. I hated everything up until then. And also college kind of sucked too.
I liked everything surrounding college. I did not so much like the college experience.
I went to a Lutheran school, Missouri Sinai school, which is like the worst of the Lutherans. So that was part of it. And also, let me tell you, getting a biology degree, some stuff is really interesting. A lot of stuff is really not interesting. So
honestly,
I like the stuff I like.
Honestly, just getting my job at New Mexico PBS, like my sophomore year of college, is the only reason I probably stayed in college, because I had to be a student to work there. Like literally working at that job was my college experience, not so much ever anything academic.
Fair. More than fair.
Nice. I just did a lot of drugs during those like 18 to 21.
Like college, yeah.
I mean, I didn't really.
Part of the college
so experience. I did go. Oh, okay, cool.
I didn't really party in college, so it's like one of those things where it's just like, did I do college wrong?
I partied in town, but it was with other people at other colleges, so.
Right.
I partied sad and alone in a dark room like you're supposed to.
I don't know. For me, it was for me. It was just like basically just juggling. It's just like, okay, who am I hooking up with this week? Like, how's this going?
Super fair. I committed like an idiot, so I should have been doing that.
Where's the plug? Not the drug plug, the butt one. Where I can't find it.
Oh goodness.
She'll probably hate me for saying this on the show, but I met Emily because she was picking me up for one of her friends for a hookup, and that's how I met my wife.
Oh,
I remember that. I remember you telling me that.
Yep.
I love that.
So how did you two meet? It's just like, oh, she picked me up for a booty call because I didn't have a car, and her best friend really wanted to hook up that night.
Amazing.
So good.
Oh goodness.
She was a bridesmaid at her wedding.
It's all good.
Everything's fine.
Yes.
I was kind of trying to transition us into reading into talking about compact comments, but then we went off the rails.
There's no smooth transition.
Yeah.
No.
So, but yeah, no, this was a thing that was posted onto the topic doc. DC introduces compact comments, which are basically just taking comic books and graphic novels and putting them into like a smaller sort of booklet format, based on what I kind of saw, and it's
they're all $9.99, which is cool. It's a same price point for every book.
Yeah, that's a good.
They're all the same size, so I think it's nice for like display purposes and also just like a little more accessible price.
Yeah.
So I thought it was kind of cool. That's good. It was. I think honestly, if they're this is not a bad move. I don't know if it's going to be like revolutionary or anything, but I do think it is like an interesting move because it's just like, I don't know, comics have always been kind of inconvenient because like obviously like there's not a good way to store them without damaging them, and then you have like these huge boxes, so or you have to buy like the compendium when they come out, you have to wait for that, and then they're all awkward sizes. I was literally just going through my comics and they were so annoying to organize. So, oh yeah, there you go, exactly. Yeah, that's not
just a giant box I keep under my desk, which I haven't opened this thing in probably 5 years.
Of course, and who does? Mine, I have like 2 and they're in my attic, I think, and I'm just like, I don't want to, I'm not going to touch them. That's very inconvenient. So I do like the convenience of this. So
it's about Fox Day.
Babies.
I'm just wondering how thick they're ultimately going to end up being, because you've got like Watchmen, and like if they're shrinking that down, is it going to be like that big when you turn it sideways?
Yeah, because Watchmen is like already like a big, thick book as is. So what does that look like when you condense it? Because you can only make the panels so small.
Yeah,
and
I do.
Good.
Oh, but I do agree, Brie, with what you're saying. The price point is really good. Yeah. It's nice not to worry about like, I spent $30 on this graphic novel and now it's tearing, the covers tearing or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think anybody who's maybe starting to get into collecting and hasn't like started yet, I think this is a good starting point for a lot of people, especially since they're starting out with a lot of classics.
Yeah.
It makes it to where like you can get your first copy of Watchmen and can be one of these, and you can plan to format how you display them and everything else like that. Comics have also just been in a weird market for the last couple of decades too, because you know, the comic shop experience has always been important, as well as like the collectability. It's always been part of that culture, but then as we moved into the digital age and digital comics, I feel like digital comics just have never caught on, or at least not in the way that has been profitable.
For sure. And I honestly, personally, I have never enjoyed like reading digital comics. Like that just doesn't work for me. And I think that's kind of a lot of people's experience. Like people do still like physical copies of things, but obviously comics individually are a nightmare to deal with and store. And then again, or you have to wait for like that compendium, and they're all different sizes. So that's kind of where I see the benefit of this. Like maybe, yeah, to your point, somebody who's like just starting their collection, or somebody who just wants to kind of streamline their collection, because $10 a book, really not bad at all. That's very reasonable. And I think it would be, again, I literally just reorganized my comics, and it was so annoying because they are all different sizes and lengths, and I'm just like, there's no good way to display this. It all looks like shit. So I would love to kind of have a shelf that is like all the same, like a manga shelf. Like it just looks nice. So.
And this could be a good way for like, especially in retail stores that are still around, where it's just like it's a small enough format to where like they can have them in like as you're in line for checkout, like an easy kind of like grab, and like being priced for that. It's just like extra $10. Maybe that puts me above the price thing for like a promo or something. It can be that. I just think comics are just in such a weird spot right now in terms of like their viability, because the collectability's kind of been shot. Digital hasn't really caught on. I subscribed to Marvel Unlimited way back, and it was nice to be able to go back and read comics that I've never read before. But once like I've already read all the things that I wanted to go back and read, it was just like, okay, cancel the subscription. I'm not gonna keep paying month to month for this because I've already read everything I want to read, and anything that's coming out later, I'm gonna go down to the local comic shop and pick up.
Yeah,
for sure.
I remember using Comixology way back in the day, but then I was same thing. I was just like, yeah, no, all right, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
And evidently it's gotten really bad since.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues. And, I think also just the fact that I think there's more creativity on like the indie webcomic side, where like, people who are like making original characters and original content and don't have to be subject to canon and publishing rules and everything else. Good job, Bo.
Yeah. He's a good
boy. Baby. He says, Dad, please.
I need attention.
Well, he kept making noise out in the other room, so I had to bring him in here and close the door. And he's not happy about it. He wants to go play.
He's just a baby.
He is a baby.
We just have fur babies that terrorize us. It just is what it is.
My boys are being so good over here. Look at them, just snoozing away.
Yeah, Dante was like crawling all over you earlier. Or maybe that was
Theo, but yes. Dante hates me, fun fact.
Hey, it's important to have one child that loves you unconditionally and the other one that's just like, fuck you, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. It's that dichotomy. We gotta have it.
Yeah. Otherwise, you just have a child that's an only child and they're just spoiled.
Yes,
like Fox and Bo.
Weird.
Yeah.
Like Fox and Bo.
Fucking bastard dog.
He's so cute, baby.
He's a good boy.
Don't you bad talk my nephew.
I'll do whatever I want. No.
Right.
But I'm doing a thing.
Anything else we want to talk about before we move on?
No, but Brie does get a producer credit this time.
Brie does get a producer credit. She's not getting a producer credit for Game Birds until an actual episode comes out.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry. Although I do the gameplay footage now, so fun fact, that's me now.
Hey, I was actually curious about what you guys were doing for that, but I think you guys adding that element was really, really nice for the YouTube videos. I thought that was a nice touch.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Well,
I guess my only lingering thought that I had while we were sitting talking, manga got brought up. Have either of you read Uzumaki?
No.
Okay, because it just got adapted into a series on Adult Swim, and I'm wondering if I should watch that or read the manga.
I've never even heard of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, it's not something I'm not that much in the Japanese manga anime scene, so.
Well, the reason I'm surprised by that is because Uzumaki, I'm not super into anime or manga, and this is something I've known about for years. Like, I can't, every time something comes up when I'm talking to somebody who is into anime or manga, they're like, oh, have you read Uzumaki? You like horror. You should read Uzumaki.
I would say looking at it, see, I hate everything about it, but
oh yeah,
I don't like horror, and I also, fun fact, don't like anime. So I feel like this is everything I dislike. But like, I hope that you find it in a format that works for you, Seth. So.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Well, anyways, that's all we have on the topic doc for this week. And so that leads us to what our next homework assignment is. And believe it or not, I just got to yesterday. It's just like, oh, crap, I haven't thought of a homework assignment.
Whoops.
Oh, no, it's my turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Me every time it's my turn.
Yeah. So I was kind of just thinking, it's just like, okay, what's something that I watched a long time ago, don't remember that well, and don't know if you guys have interacted with. Seth, you probably interacted with this one, but I want to watch Blade Runner.
Oh, I've never seen Blade Runner.
Okay.
Me neither.
So, interesting thing about Blade Runner is that there's a million different versions of it. Because
that's right.
They did a theatrical cut, they did a director's cut, there was one between that, and then there's what's considered to be the final cut. And the final cut is generally what's considered to be the most coherent of the movies. I guess apparently the theatrical version is kind of like with the Lord of the Rings series, where it's just it's really just kind of the essentials that we needed to make a movie. We didn't need all the other fluff. The director's cut added a bunch of elements that Scott really wanted, and then the final cut's threads the needle of here's all the content that was important from kind of both versions, along with an ending that more or less makes sense, especially for the sequel.
This is Harrison Ford 1982, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
So, it's not on streaming anywhere, but you can rent it on Prime and YouTube and all the other ones. And so...
yo ho, me hearties, yo ho.
Yeah,
so we're doing the final cut version?
Yeah, the final cut version.
Okay.
Boo, boo, boo.
And then we can discuss how many times are we going to retread the same movie.
When was the last time we did a Blade Runner thing?
I would say The Hobbit or the Lord of the Rings series, I guess. And then anytime George Lucas wants to go back.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm not really following you, actually. Because we've never done Lord of the Rings, but we've done a lot of Star Wars.
Well, no, I'm just talking about in general. I wasn't talking about us.
Did you mean on this podcast?
Yeah, I meant on this podcast.
Yeah, no, it would have been Phantom Menace, because they did add things to Phantom Menace after the fact.
Oh, okay. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I remember.
We'll come back. We'll upload the episode, and then we'll come back and add more to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I get it now. I get it now. All right, I found it.
It's so much funnier when you have to explain your jokes.
Oh, I know. I do it all the time.
That's comedy, folks.
Anyways, I am TCK Media on most platforms. We have That Seth23, who you can find on the TikTokies, occasionally doing his shit post. And then you have the Raccoon Brie, who you can see on Game Birds whenever they decide to start posting again.
Soon, maybe.
So for anybody who wasn't paying attention and made it to the end of this podcast, new drinking game. Start the episode over, and every time we mention Game Birds, take a shot.
Take 2 shots.
We don't want them to die. We want them to come back and watch again.
Let's go, gamers! 2 shots.
Thanks so much, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
And scene.